Hello, my friends. Welcome to day 9 of our 21-day money manifestation challenge. You are well now into the second week. And we started this whole process with me kind of explaining to you what the 3 steps to manifesting are and what I've used with my clients that works every time. Number 1 is know what you want. Number 2, do the work. And number 3, let go. I know number 2 and 3 sound like they're kind of opposites of each other, but as we've mentioned so often here, much of manifesting is about allowing the universe to help you, letting go of the how. And as you know, you still have to take right action and then allow the next right action to kind of guide you so that you can move forward. So the link connecting the inner work of letting go, being in the right frame of mind, all of that. So the inner work of manifesting to the outer work of taking concrete, aligned action is focus. So focus is so important when it comes to manifesting and feeling your best. What you focus on, and you probably have heard this before in the past, you get more of in your life. So what you focus on grows. When you are too focused on the process of manifesting, and a lot of people fall into this trap, so that process, right? Rather than the joy of creating, you can become too attached to the results. And then that's when you get that desperate or manic manifesting energy. And when that happens, people sometimes wonder when they're manifesting, why aren't I getting what I want to get? It's because they're so overly focused on this has to happen, and the way they're doing it is not in the right energy. So I know I'm spending a lot of time with you on your energy because that is the secret to true manifesting and to doing it in a way that feels good while you're doing it. So it's important to focus on what you want versus the absence of what you want. So a lot of times without realizing it, we are focusing on the absence of what we want. And when we're doing that, then we're going to get more of the absence in our life. Does that make sense? So I want you to ask yourself this question. Have I been focusing on the absence of the money and the challenges that that causes in my life, or on the presence of the money I desire? And like we did, we spent a lot of time on making sure that you are able to envision what it looks like, what it feels like when you have the money. So we want to make sure that when those worries come up, when that fear comes up for you, that you aren't focusing on that fear. But if you're too hard on yourself in that moment and pushing it away really, quickly, sometimes what happens is you end up focusing on it by just trying so hard to push it away. I hope that makes sense to you. So when you focus on lack of something, you have more lack, right? And if you tend to have that fear and worry, then that's focusing on lack. Or if you're focusing on the fear and worry of not having enough money versus how amazing your life is right now, that's going to put you in that negative frame of mind that you cannot be in if you're going to manifest. So there are only 2 things that you have complete and utter control over in your life. You have influence over things. I'll admit that, but control, the only things you can control are what goes on in your head. So that's your thoughts, and what you do, your actions. That is it. Other people can annoy us. We can have all these kinds of things happen in our life. We can have a jerky boss, right? We can want something to do, want someone to do something and they don't do it. We don't have control over that. All we have control over is how we act, what we think. So part of how we act is how we react to things, right? So when you're stressed out, most of us have had moments of stress, right? Maybe even today, maybe even this week. You're focused on things that are outside of your control, whether it's what might happen in the future, and that's a very common one, worries about the future, other people's behavior, what they're doing or not doing. So we have to really get honest with ourselves about what we're focusing on. And we have to consciously begin to focus our energy and our thoughts on the things that we have control over. So I'm going to give you an example. When I started my leadership coaching business. I had been in sales for years, so I had experience with sales and business development. But even all the salespeople out there know that sales can be challenging, right? But when I was building my business, I started from nothing. I had no business whatsoever, and I had gotten a couple clients, so that was exciting, right? And then one of my clients had a great experience, and he referred me to what was going to be the first big, large company that I was going to work with. And I met with the HR leader and we really hit it off. We clicked. Her name was Kelly. And Kelly said, I'm going to hire you to work with our leadership team. I just want to talk to the CEO and then let's set up a meeting next week. So, can you guess what happened? Crickets. I heard nothing from Kelly the next week or the week after that or the week after that. So in my mind, I started to get nervous. What did I do wrong? Why isn't Kelly getting back to me? I must have done something to bother her for whatever reason. They don't want to hire me. So I called up my client who had become a friend, and he kind of read me the riot act and said, wait a minute here. What are you focusing on here? This is not who you really are. This is not how you show up. You're focusing more on, you know, fear and worry than on what you can control. All you can control is what you do. So I made a conscious decision at that moment to just be there for Kelly, to give her whatever she needed, and to follow up. So those are the actions that I could take. I didn't follow up the way I was planning on doing it when I was in that desperate or nervous energy of like, is there anything I did wrong? Or maybe overly reaching out to her, probably to annoy her. What I did was I put her on a drip campaign. I reached out to her once a month just to check in, telling her I was there if she needed me. It took her a while, but she did get back to me. But in the and we ended up working together. I worked with her team. It was, to this day, she's worked for different companies and I've worked with her and her teams. But in the meantime, because of the way I was showing up, she referred me to someone that I ended up working with within a month. So the bottom line is, if I was about to get into that nervous energy, focusing on what is she thinking? She doesn't think I did something right. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to work with me, which I don't know that. So I'm focusing on what I think she's thinking, right? I'm focusing on fear that I need to get business. So instead of only focusing on her in that moment and what I think she was thinking, I got to work, and this is what I'm talking about, the next right action, on finding other warm leads that I could work with. So because at that moment, that was the only prospect I had in my basket. So I had all my eggs in one basket. And when you have all your eggs in one basket, you're going to get that anxiety. And it made me focus on what I could control, which was the challenge of trying to find other prospects. But every day I put 30 minutes to an hour into working on getting other warm leads. So when you focus on what you can control, then the next right action comes and you're not wasting that precious energy on that worry or fear. So one of the things that I have people do, which I'd like, well, before we get to that, so if you focus too much on what you don't want, right? So I was starting to focus on, I don't want her not to work with me, right? Then that's going to bring more of that to you. So when you focus on the things that you don't want, instead of saying, this is what I want, and this is how, this is all I can control in this moment, you end up bringing more of what you don't want. I hope that makes sense. So you must be vigilant about what you allow into your consciousness. So let's take it a step further. Even if you're watching the news, or even if you're on social media and there's people that are on there, or something that you're seeing or consuming, or even Netflix, or even movies, whatever it is that's making you not feel a certain way, or a positive, good way, you should not consume it. Whether it's the news, negative people, you have to be very vigilant about what you allow into your consciousness. And that's okay. So this is something I have people do. I have them think of a challenge that they've been having that's been causing them stress or frustration. So since we're manifesting a certain amount of money in a certain amount of time, it's important that if there's anything that's causing you stress, frustration, that you are addressing it in this moment. Because if that's the case, then you're feeling stress, and that's not a good place to be in if you're to attract money into your life, right? So what I want you to think about, I want you to write down, this is your work for today. Just write down 1 or 2 sentences about what the challenge is that you're currently facing, something that's causing you stress or not making you feel good. Okay. And if you don't have one, awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. But just listen, hear me out and see if there's something that you can kind of take out of this. And I want you to ask yourself and be honest, what have you been focusing in relation to this challenge or frustration? And if you're stressed, there's a high chance like me, you may be focusing on something that is out of your control, something other than what you're thinking and what you're doing. It could be the behavior of someone else. It could be you wanting someone to do something, but they're not willing to do it. It could be, a circumstance that you're in. It could be that your company isn't doing the things that you want them to do and you're frustrated. It could be that you're overworked, and that is something that some of those things might not be in your control. So I want you to just get honest with yourself about what you've been focusing on about this challenge. And then I want you to ask yourself some of these questions just to see you could if there's something that is within your control that you haven't faced because it's hard. A lot of times we focus on things that are outside of our control because it's easier. It's easier than to have to do the hard thing, which could be maybe to walk away or have a difficult conversation or to let something go, which is hard to do, right? So, am I struggling to be honest about what I need in this situation? Ask yourself that. Is there an unhealthy pattern of expectation where I need to set better boundaries around this situation? Is there something I'm blaming on someone else? Is there a possibility that something I'm doing or not doing is contributing to this challenge? So, this is where you have to get honest with yourself. Have I been focusing on what I can control, my own thoughts and actions? So, I want you to just answer this. What's one small thing you can do in the next week to get out of your comfort zone and focus on what you can control? For example, if you've been avoiding having a difficult conversation because you're worried the other person will get mad, you could spend 10 minutes journaling about the challenge and about the fears that it brings up for you, or maybe talk to an unbiased person, or something, just doing one small thing that you can do to take action. So the point of today is what you focus on grows, right? If you're focusing on anything outside of your control, which is anything other than your thoughts or your own actions or reactions, that means you're focusing that there's a high chance that you're not going to be manifesting at the highest level because that can cause some stress or unease. And it could mean that you're focusing on things that are more of a negative aspect. So it's focusing on what you're not getting versus what you want. Okay. So I want you to be really vigilant. And I want you in the next week or so to really pay attention to what you're letting into your consciousness, right? Positive things that are going to help you to move forward because we are in an intense time period where we are manifesting abundance. So it's really important that you remain on task and you remain in a positive, joyful state. So I hope that helps. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. You guys are doing amazing. I want to remind you to follow me on Instagram at amal.coaching. And you can also go to my website, www.gramisexecutivecoaching.com, to hear more about these wonderful leadership and well-being programs we have at Gramis Executive Coaching. And of course, I would love for you to like, subscribe, and share so that people who need to hear this are able to do so. All right, guys, I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Sending you love.